Hey, everybody, I'll give it a little tug just in case. All right, I am live. Give it a little tug for me, ma'am. All right, just checking some notifications real quick. As you can see, I'm a little discombobulated coming in at the last minute. All right, I already know about that. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. All right, that was from yesterday. Right, so we are caught up on all that. Get back to you guys. To all messages. All right, everybody. We are here. And at 8 o'clock, I ate 2 of these, except the ones I ate at 8 o'clock were about a third bigger than this one, but I did save the small one for now. These aren't very good, actually. They're not bad, but you can taste the bitter, the bitter component from what I used to cook them. And while it's not great, it definitely lets you know what you're in for when you taste it. Because it is a very distinctive, bittery sort of flavor. What I do is I take my reclaim or wash down, whatever you want to call it. It's a little bit of both. And I mix that all together. And then when I'm making a batch of cookies, I stir all that in and make that into the cookies. So you can't really tell by looking. It just looks like a normal, ordinary, delicious chocolate chip cookie. But you can ask Steve, these little cookies pack a wallop. So this makes number 3. I ate one earlier with Steve, but that was at like 2 o'clock this afternoon or something. So I'm not even going to count that one. Although Steve apparently is still counting his. All right, let me go shut the filter off here. I just finished a water change on the fancy goldfish tank. And we're now going to do a water change on the 125 back here. And then I think we're also finally going to do a water change on the 55. And I'll get the some of that Java moss cleared out of there that I've been talking about for a while. We'll just use a bucket and a hose. So I'll be able to do that while the other water change is happening. In the meantime, let's get the tanks feeding underway. It's getting smaller and smaller. Got to be careful not to drop it in the pond. Oh, it's gone. That was the last bit. So, in theory, I should be high as fuck nuts in a little while. I don't know if Bob has joined us yet this evening, but I know Bob was saying the other night he's looking forward to the next time I get high as fuck nuts. Well, tonight's your night, Bob, because I'm going to be. Although I don't know if that's a bonus or not. I don't think I make a good performer. I don't think my live shows are very interesting when I eat a lot of cookies. I get dull. I can't think of anything to talk about. I'm just kind of sitting there like, duh. And if you want to watch me sitting there like, duh, with a stupid expression on my face and squinty, watery red eyes, then I guess, you're in for a treat in about 2 hours. All right, let's see who we got saying hello tonight. Dave, Art Knight. Yeah, I was out hiking around in the woods with Steve today, and I didn't want to put myself under any pressure to get home. I knew I had some shit to do once I got home. I wound up getting home later than I thought anyway, so I was really, really glad that I bumped it back half an hour tonight. I was still coming in here late at the last minute getting shit done. Hey, Winston. Steve. Mike. Annie. Zini. I was thinking about you today, Zini, wondering how you were doing. Chlorophilia. I haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? I am doing well enough myself. Thank you for asking. Bob, you are here. Well, you're in for a treat tonight. I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, "Ooh, I wonder if Bob's going to be watching tonight because it's going to be his night." He said he wanted it, so he's going to get it. I don't know. I ate one cookie earlier, and I think Steve is exaggerating or something. I got a nice little buzz on. I could tell I'd eaten a cookie, but I didn't get all that fucking high. And I ate one. Steve ate two. And so, I don't know. He just seemed extra high. Maybe he ate three by accident and didn't realize he accidentally got that third one in there or something because he seemed really, really, really high. It was actually kind of funny. I was enjoying watching how high he was. I got a kick out of that. I did make a big old batch of butane hash oil today, but it wouldn't all fit in the container, so I had to split it up. That's what I got. That is from my Poochie Love, but as you can see, that is pretty much a full container. I can't really put the lid on it. So we are sort of working on that one tonight, but I put a little bit, the overflow had to go in a separate cup. And so that's what it looks like in a more user-friendly fashion. I can hit off that without having to worry about dunking my fucking noodle in there because nobody likes to dunk their noodle. Or do they? Anyway, I'm not going to be dunking my noodle in the big one. I'll dunk my noodle in this little one, and that will be delicious. So again, that is my Poochie Love. And if you were here Friday night and you saw that big pretzel container I had full of weed, well, that big pretzel container full of weed is now turned into that. That is that entire pretzel container is in these two little containers now. So when they call it concentrate, they're not kidding. All right, everybody. Out of the gate we go. Oh, and when we get around to the fancy goldfish pond, I specifically put what I think was a live trumpet snail on the bone that's right up next to the glass up front. So if I forget, look and see if that snail is still there or if it has crawled away or something. I mean, obviously the fish might have knocked it away, but we want to check and see if that's still there. That is how I will be able to tell whether it is still alive or not. Whoosh. How's that for a fucking hit? Look at the size of that puppy. And remember, that's not smoke. That's vapor from concentrate. I laugh at your mere mortal-sized bong hits. All right, let's move on to the next goldfish tank. So we're in the process of doing a water change on this tank right here. I already did a water change on this tank right here, and my snail's gone. Right on that piece of bone right there. You can see in the front. Well, I don't know if you can tell that's a bone or not. This sort of dark piece in the front, if the damn goldfish get out of the way, you can see this end looks more like a bone. And if you follow it all the way to this end, there was, oh, look, there he is. So that's where one of the snails is. The other one was on this end. So either the fish have knocked that and moved it, but it looks like there's some meat in there. It doesn't look like it's an empty shell. So I think there might be some live trumpet snails in here. Steve gave me some trumpet snails a long time ago, and I threw them in a tank or two, and I don't know whether they ever really took or not, but I'm beginning to think maybe they did. So we did the filters. I wiped the glass down. We did a big water change. I did a little bit of gravel vacuuming while we were in here. So this tank is looking pretty good. The white spot on Wednesday's back is pretty much gone. So now that we've done a fresh water change, I am going to get in there and we're going to dose it with the IC-X again and just get one more dose in there in case anything is going on and something's, not quite done yet. I don't want it to flare back up because the last time it went away, I stopped and it flared back up. So this time we're going to do a water change. We're going to do one more dose. And hopefully, if anything is the last little remnants that I can't quite see, but still there, we'll get that killed off and we won't have to worry about that anymore. All right, let me get my tablet, get caught up on my comments. All right, I was around here somewhere. All right. The sus townspeople have upgraded from stickers to dolls, though. I don't know what you mean there, Zini, but I'm dying to find out. I'm doing well enough. Me and Steve went out hiking in the woods today, and we actually had a really good hike. It was just enough of uphills to make me miserable, but just enough downhills to reward me. We had some beautiful, lovely scenery. It was a gorgeous day, except for the howling, fucking screaming wind. It was nice. We had a good, nice walk, and I'm going to pay for it tomorrow. I'm going to feel it, but I need it. I got to get some exercise. Pennsylvania Wildman, how are you? Ross, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, not bad, but not right either. Hello, Mandarin. Robs, how are you? And somebody could stop sign me, and I would appreciate that. Tonight's music, let's see. I was taking a ride with my best friend, and I also have my own personal cheese sauce. So you ought to be able to figure it out by those two clues. It's easy enough. Oh, that's all right, Mandarin. I just got started 15 minutes ago myself. They were hanging stickers around. Now they're hanging dolls. Well, dolls sounds a lot more exciting than stickers. My wife always talks about, we did it once when we first moved out here, like in the woods down by the street. We found a baby doll head, like a really old, creepy baby doll head where the hair was almost like all gone out of it. And it was just like two staring eyes. And we wedged it in the branches between two trees, in the trees. So if you were walking along the street and you stopped at just the right place and you looked into the woods in front of our house, you saw this really creepy baby doll head looking back at you. And so every year my wife talks about doing something like that. We were actually just at a store not long ago that was going out of business, and they were selling like everything, like quite literally the hooks on the walls, the coat hangers, and they were selling the fucking store mannequins, and they had the creepiest looking mannequins I've ever seen. They were so awesome. And we stood there. We really, really, really thought about whether or not we were going to buy one of those creepy mannequins to bring home and just put in the woods in front of the house, like just close enough to the street that you can't quite see it unless you're paying attention. But once you see it, you'll be horrified. But we didn't. We said, nah, we didn't got better things to spend our money on than that. But oh my God, that would have been so fucking funny. But every year we talk about getting like a weird baby doll or something and putting them in the woods. So I like your town. If it's got little creepy dolls hanging everywhere, that's always a good time. Queens. There you go, Dave. Depeche Mode. Black Sabbath. The little electric candle that I found on the kayak that one time. Yeah, that was out on the reservoir. That wasn't here at the house. I'm almost positive that must have floated there and washed up when the water was full, and then as the water receded, it just stayed back in that little nook. But it was really, really strange the way it was positioned back there. It almost looked like it was back there so that the little fairies could have a tea party or something, and that was their little table light. We're going to go ahead and feed this tank, even though we're water changing it. That's not going to really bother the fish, I don't think, while the water changes this early on. Start by throwing some at them. And then we'll get in there and we'll throw a bunch of algae wafers at them. We're super motivated tonight and we have enough time, which we probably won't. Shit, it's almost 9 o'clock. I forgot we got started late. My gourami tank needs a water change too. The water itself is fine. It's just because I don't really have any filtration on there anymore. The stuff collects in the bottom, and I've got little bits of detritus and a bunch of loose Java moss. And again, that tank has a sand bottom, so nothing breaks down and gets, absorbed down into the rocks or falls between the gravel. It just sits on the surface, and that tank gets dirty really quickly. So now I keep saying this. We're going to have to do something with it. I just don't know what. And as you can tell by my lack of urgency, the water's fine. The fish aren't in any danger or anything like that. It just doesn't look very pretty. And I can live with that. I'm not too sweating it because it doesn't look beautiful at the moment. We got plenty of time. It'll come around again. My tanks have had many, many ups and downs over the years. They don't all have to look at their peak performance every moment of every day. I'm okay with that. We'll get to it when we get to it. Live Shiners, nice. Live Shiners is almost cheating now. Yeah, Bob, you're not kidding. The house has got weird, creepy baby doll heads all around it. Nobody's going to fuck with that house. Not only will it make the news that like people are putting creepy baby doll heads out, but then it'll make the news again that somebody's going around stealing the heads off the creepy baby dolls. Oh man. Ward off evil spirits. Exactly. People usually forget the meaning of all the good stuff we used to do back in the day. Most of it revolved around sex, fertility, growing stuff, planting things, harvesting stuff, or warding off evil spirits. Oh, nice, Art. Antietam Creek. My first fish of the year this year was actually a nice little largemouth. Again, it wasn't anything huge by, big bass fisherman standards, but when you fish with the very light tackle that I like fishing with, it was a very nice bass for my first fish of the year. I had 3 fish within a few minutes of each other, and that was within a few minutes of even getting started. I went out, I was waiting for Steve to show up, so I paddled across the water, and I threw a line out. Within, 3 or 4 casts, I hooked into a fish, but I did it poorly. I did a very, very, I don't claim to be a good fisherman at all, believe me. One of my worst thing about fishing, my absolute worst thing is I'm just really timid on the hook set. I've had too many times over the years where I've done, gotten a false hit where I've snagged into a little bit of grass, or I've snagged onto a little, the tip of a branch or something underwater thinking it was a hit, and set the hook like I was trying to plant an anchor into concrete or something. And next thing you know, I've got a lure and a hook whizzing past my face at 64 miles an hour. You can practically hear the sonic boom as it rips past, and I've scared the shit out of myself a few times. I'm going to blind myself. I've set the hook like really hard, only to find that I set it into a rock at the bottom, or I set it into a log, and now I can't get my lure back because the hook is buried in that piece of wood. And just from a few experiences like that over the years, you just get timid with it. I don't want to go yanking on that fucking line in case it was just a twig I bumped into, and next thing I know, there's a fucking hook flying at me at 80 miles an hour. And so I'm really timid on the hook set, and you just can't be timid on the hook set. And so I was, and I did, and I got a terrible hook set. And right as the fish got up to the boat, which I don't mind this happening. Again, I'm not trying to win any contest, so I don't give a shit that I wasn't able to officially land it. but I got it right up to the boat. I could see it was a nice little smallie. Came up out of the water, spit my hook at me, and then went back into the water and was gone. So I didn't even have to get my hands dirty to pretty much catch that one, but I didn't technically land it. I don't count that because I didn't, thumb it. I didn't get the hook out of its mouth and all that stuff. That still doesn't count to me. The next one I did actually manage to hook into, but again, I did it poorly. And same thing happened. It was another smallie, came up to the boat, and it flipped out. Right as I got it up to the boat, it spit the hook out. And then the third time, I got a little more aggressive with the hook set, and that one turned out to be a nice little largemouth. It put up quite a fight. It breached several times, which is always fun. And I was able to land it successfully and get a picture of it. And I showed you all the picture before. So that was my first official fish of the year, was a largemouth. It's usually some bullshit little tiny sunfish or some little garbage fish that I wasn't even trying to catch. But this year, my first fish out of the gate was a nice largemouth. So you can't complain about that. At least I can't. And that was out at the reservoir. No, I don't use barbless hooks. Good way to lose fish. Oh, wow. That would have been neat, Mike, catching a koi. Hey, Ish, how are you? 11,000 of them. I don't know when we're going to do our... we don't do salmon. We do the trout. You've caught many koi? That's interesting. Oh, it's hard to say how much and how often. Well, I can always say how much. The how much is big ass. I always do big ass water changes because I can. No, Mandarin, go. I don't think you got to worry about having a flashlight turned on all night. I don't think that's a fire hazard. 4-inch golden shiner. You run a salmon hatchery? Oh, okay, nice. That's cool. No, we do we have put and take trout areas where they put them and we're allowed to take them. And the Gunpowder and a bunch of different rivers around my area are put and take trout areas. And on like the day that they release the trout, there's 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the year. Man, you go out there when they're releasing the trout, and it's like a fucking cartoon. You ever see those old Bugs Bunny cartoons on opening day when like everybody's shoulder to shoulder and it's like 1,000 rods out in the water and like everybody's lines are crisscrossing and whatnot? It's literally like that. I've gone out there before and just said nope, just turned around like I didn't even know it was trout day. I was just going out there to fish, and I was just like no, fuck no, and turned around and came back home. But I've seen it when it's the day that they release the trout. They release, I think you have to wait 1 day, 24 hours after they release them or something like that. But like sunrise the next day, you're allowed to fish or something. Now, a lot of the trout survive. A lot of them don't get caught. Some of them die off over the winter or the summer. But some of them live, and you can catch the odd trout year round in some of the small streams around here, even though they're not as cold as you might think a trout stream might need to be. So Ish, getting back to your question, I don't really do water changes on any kind of regular basis. I just sort of do them as I feel like the tank needs it, and the reason a tank may need it can vary. Maybe I need to get in there and do a little bit of plant maintenance and a little bit of scaping and thin out the garden a little bit. Sometimes I might need to get in there and do a little maintenance to get the glass cleaned up, and so I may as well throw a hose in there. Sometimes the tannin stains are getting a little too dark and the tank's getting really dark and I want to brighten it up, which is the case for this tank. We also need to get in, if you see all this Java moss that's starting to grow all over everything in this tank, we're going to get in here in a few minutes with a siphon hose and a bucket, and we're going to suck the shit out of this Java moss, and we're going to clean a lot of this out of the tank. So get ready for that after we feed it. So no real pattern. My 29 right there, this tank here, that might get might get 2 water changes a year. I keep a tank for my wife upstairs in her dressing room or her room, whatever you want to call it. We call it the boudoir. I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year, maybe I do water changes on that tank. It's sort of out of sight, out of mind. So not very often. I guess my most frequent water change tank would be maybe my gourami tank and my discus tank, my 120. And that's mainly because at the second half of my live streams, I usually sit in front of my discus tank. And so I kind of like that one looking nice and sharp and the fish looking nice and pretty and that sort of thing. And so I tend to do a little more frequent water changes on that. But even that tank only gets water changes, maybe once a month or something like that. Not terribly frequently. In fact, it looks like one of my discus is, oh, yeah, she is. Goddamn, she's laid a whole ton of eggs on the heater in there. Wow. We'll see them when we get around there. They're not going to be gone. But remind me if I forget, the discus is in there spawning and laying eggs. And we've also got 2 discus at the other end of the tank that look like they're spawning too. So I might have 2 pairs of discus spawning right now at the same time. Suck it, discus keepers. Lover's Lane. How are you? Any relation to Lois Lane? Yeah, catching trout on fly would be neat. I've never done the fly fishing, though. I've always wanted to. That's one of those things that maybe like if you know somebody that's got the equipment, you can kind of go out with them and borrow it or something. But otherwise, like where do you go that you can just like give that a try without having to go out and buy a lot of expensive equipment just to sort of get started? I know Bass Pro Shops does like seminars a couple times a year where you can go and they'll take you out back and you can, learn how to do it and stuff like that. So maybe one year I'll do that. Who am I kidding? I'll never do that. How old is the tank we're looking at? I don't really know how old this tank is at this point. We're getting ready to get in there and do some work if you missed me saying that a few minutes ago. So stick around if you want to see some tank maintenance on it. I've had this tank set up in one form or another for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, maybe something like that. It's been in its current state for 5 or 6 easily. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a log that runs all the way down the length of the bottom. There's a big piece of wood down on this end, and then there's some smaller pieces of wood and some rocks and stuff in there. You just can't really see them because it's getting all overgrown, and that's the whole point. We're going to get in there and overgrow it tonight. Yeah, I was going to say fly fishing out on open water in a kayak would be easy. Well, I don't mean easy. It would be easy in the regards of not having to worry about overhead obstacles. I always like the rivers I fish. One of the reasons that I fish with an ultralight, well, I fish with either a light or an ultralight. Oddly, either that or I fish with my casting rod that has 50-pound braid on it. But when I'm fishing with my spinners, it's either a light action or it's an ultralight. And that came from just years and years of before I went out on a boat, before I went out on a kayak, I fished on foot. And I used to just fish small streams and little rivers and creeks, like where I was today with Steve. It was Graves Run. I just walk up and down Graves Run. And when you're in little tiny areas like that, there are literally places where you just don't have any room at all to cast. And so with the little tiny ultralight rod that I use, my little one's only about 5 feet tall. So if I absolutely have to, if there's trees right next to me on each side, I can hold the rod tipped down and have enough room in front of me to just toss out in front of me. And so I've just sized down. So I've always got a really small rod to be able to fish like that. And then, of course, as I get into bigger water and fishing around the reservoir, I continued fishing with the really small rod because, again, you catch a 1.5 pound bass on a 5 foot rod with 4 pound test. That's a lot of fun. I don't care what anybody says. Again, I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm not trying to win any contest. I'm just enjoying myself. And a little ultralight rod with 4-pound test. It's a lot of fun. Even catching sunfish on a kit like that, it's a lot of fun. But you hook into a nice chunky little bass, little pound and a half bass on 4-pound ultralight. That's a lot of fun. No, that is Java Moss, actually. Fish and footballs. How are you? I've never been good at flipping with a casting rod. Honestly, the only thing I can really do with a casting rod is fish with a fair amount of weight on it, and I can throw it half a country mile. Or, I can throw it a little lighter than that, a little easier. But any kind of fine-tuned stuff, any kind of like close stuff, like I see these guys just like nonchalantly flipping off the edge of a boat and dropping it right in front of them in the shallows, like 5-6 feet away, 10 feet away. I just can't do that. I've just never practiced enough because I don't fish like that. And I just don't ever. I tried practicing. I used to go out back with a bucket and I'd try to flip into a bucket and all that kind of stuff, but I just never do that kind of fishing enough to learn how to do it. Again, I will go out there occasionally with my whopper plopper or like a big top water crankbait or something, or a big deep water diver, like an 8-inch, swim bait or something, and get it out in deep water. And I will occasionally fish for the big ass, bubba. But I give it half an hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. If nothing happens, I put that away and I go back to fishing the way I like to fish. With my ultralight, and then I get up into the shallows and I fish along the shoreline and I work my way around the rocks and the logs and drop offs where the water gets deep, and I bring it up over the edge of that, and you can usually pull some fish out of deeper water. So I've got my way of fishing. I got a style of fishing that I like to do, and I just, even if I'm not catching fish, I don't really switch it up. I like fishing that way. And I either get bored and stop fishing altogether, or I just fish for the sake of fishing, whether I'm catching anything or not. Some days the fish are on and I catch a bunch of them. Other days the fish just aren't doing shit. Like I was saying the other night when I was out there, like in a 10-minute span, I hooked into 3 of them before Steve showed up. And then 2 days ago, it was the very next day I was out there, and I fished patiently around, I don't know, it must have been a 1/4 mile of shoreline, maybe 1/3 of a mile of shoreline around this cove, and I didn't get a hit. I didn't get a sunfish pecking at it. I didn't see a fish, and I just gave up and decided today's not a day to fish. And so I did other stuff. I didn't fish. So I don't take my fishing too seriously, and that's what keeps it fun. If I did take it too seriously, it probably wouldn't be fun. All right, everybody. It's been an hour since I ate those 2 cookies. About another half an hour or so. I think it might start rolling on to me. We'll see what happens. All right, let me see where I was here. Try bow fishing for minnows. I've seen people bow fishing out at some different places around here, George's Creek and whatnot. Yeah, I've got really good accuracy with my spinning rod, especially the 2 I keep talking about, my ultralight and my light action. I've fished with them for so many years under so many circumstances. They feel like extensions of my body. I can flip or toss or cast a lure with that with just as much accuracy, or probably even more accuracy, than I could if I was just holding the thing in my hand and tossing it. I'm really good with a spinning rod, not so much with the casting. Yeah, I love the whopper plopper because even if you're not catching any fish, it's just fun. Bloop, 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 bloop. You can change how fast it goes to change how it sounds. Hey, Cornish, how are you? I have, when you say lost a fish, like they just vanish, I have experienced that before.
Yeah, I haven't done any crappie fishing in a long time. You thought I looked wobbly? What are you talking about? No, I've never done noodling. Hey, Mei-Ling. Never done shotgun fishing either. They got to be really close to the surface for the shotgun fishing. All right, let's keep moving along. I want to get all of the tanks done, and then we are going to get in and do some work on the 55 here. We're going to vac out all of the stuff. I can feel those cookies starting to roll onto me now, as a matter of fact. And I do have to get down here and wipe out all the glass and all that stuff. And I want to get in there and do a little bit of gravel vacuuming too. So let's just go ahead and skip over the 29. I'll throw some food at them. We'll look into this tank. It's got a couple of discus in it and a bunch of minnows of undeterminate species. Thank you for the stop signs. Again, the crud's growing back. That didn't take long at all. I did just get in here the other day with a razor blade. I say the other day, it's been like a week. Ooh, wow, that was definitely like a big wave of weirdness just washed over me. All right, that was a big fucking kick in the head. Man, I almost lost balance. That felt like such a big whoosh going over me. That was weird. Damn, you guys might be in for a show tonight because we're hardly fucking getting started. I ate 2 of those cookies at 8 o'clock, and they usually take about 2 hours to kick in, but lately they've been kicking in a little sooner than that. But again, this was like an hour ago. I ate the 2 of them, and then I ate a third one at 8:30. So we'll see what happens. But the first 2 I ate, I swear to God, they are already starting to kick in because I definitely feel really fucking weird all of a sudden. Anyway, I need to go do some glass wiping before I fall in the pond. Does anybody want to watch me wipe the glass? Yeah, noodling is when you reach down into the holes that the catfish live in, and you wiggle your fingers around until the catfish bite your fingers, and then you grab their mouth and pull them out of their hole, or they drag you to your death, one or the other. Oh, you were trying to freak someone out? Okay. Hey, Z-Zip, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while either. We got a bunch of people showing up tonight after a while. My fish are going to be wondering what's wrong with me. Maybe. Dude or dudette, whoever you are, fish and football, all my stuff is homegrown and sticky as fuck. Homegrown is the best, man. That is just, I swear to God, my homegrown weed is better than the stuff I get at the stores. And I'm not saying that talking shit. I genuinely mean that. The stuff I get at the stores, and excuse me, I will say the caveat. I was mentioning this to Steve as I was talking about it today. When I buy weed at the store, and I did buy a lot of weed at the store over, the last couple of years, I generally buy the stuff that's either on sale or it's the lower budget brand. I've never bought the shit that's, $55 or $60 for an eighth because that's stupid. So who knows? Maybe there's some better shit out there than I've gotten myself. But generally speaking, when I get weed from the store, it's hard as a rock. The nuggets are really, really just bone dry. It's got a bit of a harshness to it where it's a little rough on the throat when you're smoking it. I've never been that impressed with weed store weed. I mean, it's nice that I can just go to the store and buy it when I want, and it's potent enough. It's not, I wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers, but I don't know. It's just not that amazing. It really isn't. When my stuff is on, which it now is, I went through quite a bit of trouble for a while there. I'm not going to go through the whole details with that, but it took me a while to get my garden back up and running like the way it used to a few years ago. And now that it is, I will take the stuff that I grow myself over what I buy at the store any day when it's cute. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely got like tinglies in my face and like a big wave of weirdness just washed over my head. That was neat. What was I saying? Right. My stuff is, when it's cured properly, it's fragrant, it's flavorful, it's got enough softness to it that it's, you know, you can squeeze it a little bit. It's got a little bit of forgiveness to it, but you can still like break the bud off the stem and it just cracks off nice and clean. And it's just delicious and smooth on the throat. I'll take my shit over the fucking store-bought stuff any day. Homegrown is the best. People talk about it because I think it comes from back in the day. Every time I always bought, quote, homegrown, it was always somebody selling me some bullshit they were trying to unload. It was like the leaves or all the little garbagey popcorn buds or something like that. Like, I never understood that, you know, when I was younger, that like, when you grow it at home, you get buds at home too. That's just not, you know, I never got the buds that somebody grew. Whenever I got homegrown, I associated it with like stringy, leafy, you know, just bullshit. But not anymore. When I think of my homegrown, like that's the best weed is the homegrown stuff. All right, I'm not really able to wipe all of this glass down just because of where those stupid fish are sitting. If I tried to get in there and wipe it, it would freak them out. And the water's getting low enough that they don't have a whole lot of place to run to. And I don't want to give everybody any injuries. Oh, okay, they moved. Well, no, they didn't. Not enough. So we'll call that good. And there's stuff that's on the glass that is clearly not going to get off of the glass. Sometimes the shit just grows on there. It's amazing how stuff can grow to glass. You wouldn't think of glass as being like a textured surface that shit can really attach to, but boy, it sure does. So at some point, I'm going to need to get in there with a razor blade and really scrape all that down. In the meantime, let's move you over to the betta tank. And I will get down there and vac out a few little nooks and crannies. Remember, we got a little guy in the betta tank. All right, I keep forgetting it's Sunday night. It sounds like the missus is getting ready for bed. All right, you guys enjoy that. Actually, let me get caught up on some comments here real quick. All right, let's see. 80 for a half. That's not too bad. Male plant leaves? Oh, God. That's even worse. The Colorado farm. No, I'm allowed. I'm here in Maryland. I'm allowed to grow it legally. Of course, I've been growing it for almost 20 years now, 18 years or something. Yeah, it's a 20-gallon. Hey, Aquaballs. Best stuff in Los Angeles. Well, I don't sell my weed because I'm not allowed to sell weed. But if I did sell weed, I would sell it to friends of mine for probably $100 an ounce or something like that. Make me a little money. Maybe they can make a little money. But I don't do that because, you know, I'm not allowed to sell weed or anything, so I don't. But I am allowed to grow it for myself, and I do. And I don't know if it would win any awards at the, you know, annual Bud, whatever the hell they call that, the Cannabis Cup every year. But I would easily, any day of the week, I'd put my shit up against the store-bought stuff. I'd even put it up against it as far as analyzing it, you know, potency-wise, how much THC is in it and all that. I get some fucking crunchy, crystally, sticky, icky stuff. All right, I'm getting all kind of crap out of here. When you got a 12.5-inch pleco in a tank, you get big poops. It's like having a Great Dane in the backyard. Pleco poops make goldfish poops look like insignificant. I'm going to have to go check the bathroom to make sure I'm not clogging up the drain with all this poop that I'm sucking out of this corner here. Good grief. All right, let me try to get one more corner where I know stuff collects. All right, if you can hear that noise, it's the bottom power head is now starting to be exposed. Oh, yeah, there's so much crud in this little notch back here. I'm going to get some of that out. All right, I'm going to leave that there for a minute. Let me go check the sink. Let me scoot past you here for a second. I'm going to go check the drain. I have, all right, we're still good for the time being. I've come really close to overflowing the, it's one of those walk-in showers, and so it's only like 2 inches deep. And if the drain gets clogged up with garbage that I'm sucking out of a tank, like a bunch of Java moss or something like that, it can clog that little drain up. Next thing you know, I got water flowing across my bathroom floor. You can see my plecos out down here. It's a chocolate zebra pleco. Let me feed these guys real quick. Again, we're just throwing Vibra Bites in there because it's quick and easy. I want to get back to working on that tank because I'm about to flip the water and start filling it back up. No, Ish, I'm in Maryland. I'm all the way on the other side of the continent. Oh, that sucks, Annie. That's becoming more and more common for people to do that. Yeah, I definitely enjoy the flavor myself. To cycle a tank in usually takes anywhere from a month to 6 weeks if you do it slowly. If you add stuff, you might be able to do it a little faster than that. Oh, geez, you had me fucking scared for a minute, Mike. I looked up like, what are you talking about? I thought the disc looked fine. Give me a damn heart attack. Give me a damn beef heart attack. All right, somebody can stop sign me there. In fact, let me go ahead. Actually, let me go do some fish stuff before I do another hit here. I'm running really low on water, and if I want to vac any more of this out, I got to do it now. I can take my hit in a minute. But that Poochie Love hash oil I made is so delicious. It's not as good as the Super Silver Haze. Like, oh man, that stuff is so good. I can't believe it's so good. But alas, I don't have any of that. But I do have a big bunch of whopping chunk of that Poochie Love. So we're going to hit on that in a minute. Let me go reverse the polarity because the fish are starting to freak out. And that means it is time to refill the tank. All right. I'm going to let the hose run for a second because there's a whole bunch of crud in the line. I'm going to let it suck through. It's all looks like pleco poop. Once that is sucked through, well, it just keeps on coming. Yeah, it just keeps on coming. I think this might be, yeah, this looks like about the end of it. All right, now that the line's nice and clear, we will reverse polarity. And I don't know how hot that water is. Oh, yeah, we'll call that good. I never bother to check the temperature. I just turn the dial to where I think it looks about right. You know, the H is pointing in the right direction, and as long as it's good, I go with that. All right, now I can do a hit. Mel, I was thinking about you today. I was talking to Steve, and I was reassuring him that I was right about something. And I said, "Have I ever been wrong whenever I've told you this stuff?" And he was like, "No." And I thought, Mel. So that's how I was thinking about you today. But I did think about you, so I hope you're doing well. Mandarin, if you have a tank that you've put a sponge filter from an established tank that's already been up and running, that's probably enough right there. I'm not a big fan of the bottle bacteria. I don't necessarily trust it. You can use it, but I would still check and test and make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to do. But if you're using an established sponge filter, that's a lot of, um, you know, biological activity going on in a sponge filter. So for that going into a small tank, I would think you'd be pretty much fine. Uh, right from there. You wish I was always wrong, Mel. Shirley, my girlie. Yeah, room temperature is generally fine. Upper 70s, mid 70s. Even my discus stay in the upper 70s. But I have been leaving the windows open down here at night, and it does get a little chilly. So I do have heaters in a lot of my tanks, this being one of them that has heaters in it. Speaking of which, I unplugged this heater a long time ago because the discus often lay eggs on it, and the heat comes on and then it cooks the eggs. But if you can see that fish back there, if it ever gets out of the way, not the white eggs that are on the wire, you can see those right now. But if the fish moves, you'll see some dark brown eggs on the heater itself. See them? These discus are not going to. There you go. You can kind of see them for a moment. I wonder if we can see them if we look in from the top. No, we're just going to see. I mean, I can kind of see them through the water. Let's see what you can see. Yeah, you can kind of see them. See that sort of tan mark on, like, right down a couple inches from the top of the heater? It looks like a tan mark. That's all the eggs. And so I've also got a couple discus down in this end of the tank that have been doing like the sparring side by side, like they lie up against each other and like do the squaring off to see who's cooler. So that's usually a sign of fish getting ready to put a little Barry White on the radio. All right, let's do another hit of this. Again, that's my giant size container full of it. It's almost enough that I can close the lid now, but you can't quite do it. It's still a little too full, so we're gonna try to skim a little off the top of that. And Mel and Shirley, if you missed the excitement earlier, I ate some marijuana cookies at 8 o'clock, and they are starting to whoop my ass. I ate two of them at 8 o'clock, and then I ate another one at 8:30. So the first two I ate are definitely rolling on to me pretty solid at this point. And pretty soon that third one's going to be rolling on. All right, let me see if that notification is in any good news or not. No, it's not. Stupid business collaboration for my YouTube channel. I get so many of them, I just ignore them. I never even look at them. All right, we are still filling the other tank up. I don't want to get too relaxed and stop paying. Excuse me, good Lord. I leaned over as I was starting to talk. I squeezed all that coughing out of me. So we are still in the process of filling this tank up. I still do want to get over there. We need a bucket and we need a hose, and we're going to suck a bunch of stuff out of that tank. So actually, let's start getting in position for that. We can do that while that other tank's filling up. As long as I pay attention to it, we'll be okay. So I'm going to put you back kind of here and out of the way so I don't trip over you. I'm going to reserve all that pothos down there. That's what I'm going to trip over, but it's not going to be you. So you stay here. Let me go get a bucket, dear Eliza. So many buckets. All right, this one will work. We'll get a hose. And I'll be able to pull 5 gallons out of there long before we finish filling up what's going on over there. Here, let me give you a better view of what is going on over there. Let's turn that on. Let's try turning the overhead light on. I gotta bend all the way over to the ground to pick this up. Jeez, that was a long way down. All right. Hey, everybody, it's me again. All right, out of my way, Aquatic Plants. All right, let's see how much of this we get on the first go. I got to hold the bucket open with my knee. Move the light. I got a shop light on top here, so I got to kind of slide it back so I can open the lid and it'll stay open. And then we're just going to use a regular old siphon hose. I always got to remember which end goes in the tank. I really should get one of these lids that actually stays open by itself. All right. Holy crap, this is thick. It's already getting stuck in the damn hose. It's so thick in here. The stuff at the surface is really thick because it can't go anywhere and it's just growing really dense. Yeah, man, it's got snails and all kind of shit going on in here. Holy crap, that is dense. Come on, you can do it. Come on. Oh, it's trying so hard. It really wants to. Come on, you can do it. Oh, there we go. Holy crap, I got another big wad. This is so thick. I waited a little too long to do this. Come on. You can do it. You got another one. There we go. Nope, we're stuck again. Got another big chunk. This might take a little longer to do a 5-gallon bucket than I thought. Come on. You know you want to. Come on. There you go. Get on out of there. Oh, man, I grabbed another wad by accident. Ye gods, that's a huge one there. Oh, it's going to go. It's trying. It's working on it. It's trying. Come on. I don't know what to do to make it go. This is the worst. Oh shit! I knew that was going to happen. If I shook it too much, the hose would fall out of the bucket. Fortunately, no water's running through the damn hose because it's plugged up with fucking Java moss. Come on, there it goes. Jeez Louise. I didn't even try to get that glob sucked in there. It did it by itself. All right, I think maybe tonight will be a preliminary cleaning of Java moss. Holy crap, I did it again. All right, it's going to be hard to do this with one hand and keep the hose in the bucket with the other. Just pull it out and do it that way. It's easier. Jeez. That's really what I ought to be doing, is just pulling it out of here by hand. But when you do that, you wind up getting a bunch of it swirling around in the tank, and I don't want to do all that. I'm not sure what kind of, some noise behind me just stopped, and I don't know what it was, but I'm glad I looked down because the bucket is just now completely full. So we got started on it. You can see some rock in there now at this point. Here, let me set this down. So you can see that there's a big old rock in there. And you're starting to see this log a little bit more. I got a big piece of wood in there that runs all the way down the whole length of it. So we've still got all this shit to go. I still got all that stuff in there to go that isn't even off of the plumbing yet. And we haven't even gotten to any of this. You know what? Let's try this. First of all, we can pull this chunk right off the spray bar. This bucket is so full, I don't really know how much of this I can put in there. See, this is actually a great big piece of wood. Ta-da! Shit, I missed some. That seems a lot easier than the way I did it before, doesn't it? God bless. All right, let's go throw this in my grow out bucket while we're still filling that other tank up. All right, everybody, hang on. Say hello to Uma, even though you can't really see her. All right, believe it or not, these are my grow out buckets. So I don't know which one I want to throw this in. We'll do that. Oh boy, that's warm water. Let's turn that warm down a little bit. All right. Grow out bucket. Been making my own soil again. Good stuff. All right, I don't think I want to do another 5-gallon bucket since we did what we just did. I'm going to go in there with my hand again. I'm going to pull some of this out. That can go in here. I'm not going to dump this in my down my toilet. It's just too much vegetation in there. So we'll let this bucket stand. I'm going to pull some of the Java moss off of the power head. That really blocks the flow of water. It looks really cool, like tying streamers to a fan, but it really, really blocks the flow of water. So we'll do that. This is kind of hard to see, mostly because of all of the crip, not the Java. But this is a big piece of wood right here. You can kind of see it moving when I'm. That's a chunk of wood. And in fact, if you look at this chunk of wood, and you see how it's got that sawed off flat bottom. That piece of wood Obviously wasn't in there very well. Just kind of muscled down into the stuff. That piece of wood is, if you look in here, well, you can't see them anymore, but there's two big pieces of wood. One comes here and it's sort of spiky and comes in this direction. And then there's another big piece over here that grows up and grows in that direction. And those two pieces of wood are the same pieces of wood as that one. I collected them all at the same time. It was one big piece of root. There's a whole epic story behind how I collected that piece of root, but I could not get all of it to fit in this tank. And so I had to cut that one piece off, and it just laid around for years and years. And eventually it ended up living in this tank. But this is from my very, very early days. This tank here is the very first one I ever scaped by giving it some thought and like deciding what I wanted to do, what fish were going to go in it. So you can kind of see that piece of wood right there has all the stuff growing on it. This tank feels cold too. I must not have a heater in this one. Look at the size of that ram's horn snail. That's a good one. On this side, again, it's kind of hard to tell. Look at that tiny little Anubias. That's all Anubias, believe it or not. As tiny as that is, all this stuff here, that's Anubias. But you can kind of tell that's growing on a big piece of wood down there too. That's all the same piece. I went out there one summer and I was back in a cove where there was I was fishing, and there was a really good looking piece of wood, like a big root that somebody had cut down the tree, and then the root mass was still there. So you had like the flat top, and then all the roots and everything came down off of it. Like you can imagine what a tree stump looks like. But it was in water. It was too deep for me to get to it. And so I waited and I waited. And at the end of the summer, because it's a reservoir, the water level was getting a little bit lower, and I was able to get over top of it with my boat. This is back when I had a John boat. And I laid across the front deck of the boat and like reached my arm all the way down in the water and was able to grab a hold of the edge of it and lift it up off the bottom. And then I sort of motored the boat over towards shore, and I got it as close as I could to shore before I let go of it. And I left it there. And then in, I don't know, like October or something, I came back and the water level was low enough. I was able to walk out and get it and drag it up to the shore. And I used my saw and I cut one leg of like the root part off and brought that home. And that's what made it into all of those tanks and those pieces of wood. Those are some of the original pieces of wood I brought home from the reservoir. Now I tend to just, find shit along the shoreline and stuff like that. That's a little bit of a effort going through all that just to bring home some pieces of wood. And if I go out there to this day, I can still show you the sunken piece of wood that has a big chunk sawed off of it. All right, we are still filling the 125, and when that is done, we will use the hose to top off the 55. It's a little bit late, or I would say let's just do a water change on the 55. I'll do that either tomorrow or we'll save it for Wednesday or something. All right, where's my stop sign back here somewhere? Probably, maybe. Holy crap. Yeah, there's one. All right, let me see. All right, now I'm reading and getting caught up. Traveling down to Baltimore next weekend to visit your sister. I hope the weather's nice for you too. That's a long drive, isn't it? You're coming down from Canada, aren't you? Did we see Proof of Life when we were just looking at that tank, Mel? Haven't been up. I hit up a higher. No, but my channel doesn't get that kind of fucking high quality people. I get weird, stupid nobodies asking me about weird, stupid shit that has nothing to do with fish keeping and all kind of stuff. I don't get enough views for Higer to ask about me. What am I working, Bob? Working that hose. That's what I was working. Yeah, the hand grip or some sort of way of keeping the hose in the tank would be a good idea. I've only been doing this for 15 years. Give me a break. I'll figure it out one of these days. Fish do pee in your aquarium, but it's mostly just water. The ammonia comes out of their gills. In human beings, we have a urea cycle. So as we digest food and stuff breaks down in our bodies, it converts into urea and gets stored in our bladder in the form of urine. With fish, because they live in water, they can get rid of that directly. And so they don't have to change the ammonia into urea. And they wind up expelling the urea. I mean, they wind up expelling the ammonia directly out of their gills into the water. So the way we pee versus the way fish pee is slightly different. But they do produce ammonia and it does get put into the water. And then, of course, your nitrogen cycle and all that deals with it, or it should if your tank is working properly. Oh, no, Ish, you can't completely remove that moss for a big clock. I'm going to strip it down as much as I can, but you just give it a little while. It'll be back, and it'll be back with a vengeance. It'll get angry with me for doing this, and you just watch and see what it does to me. I prefer the Cardinals as far as the way they look, but my luck with fish has always been that even though I haven't had great luck with the neons, I've had better luck with neons than I ever did with Cardinals for some reason. But I do like the way the Cardinals look better. Zini is back. Well, that's good to know. Melanoma is skin cancer. Melatonin is the sleep hormone, and melanin is the dark brown pigment that we have in our bodies. I don't know what the red pigment is called. Is the red pigment melanin too? I've never even thought about that. We, as human beings, only have two pigments. We have a brown pigment, we have a red pigment. And I know the brown one is melanin, but I don't know if the red one is called melanin as well. I'll have to look into that when I think about it. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, all we're still waiting for I haven't forgotten you guys. I'm just waiting for the tank to finish topping off. You can see it's got a couple inches to go. On the best of days, I'm absent-minded, and I can easily forget that's happening. So after my cookie munch down tonight, we are definitely going to just stand here and watch that tank. I'm not really taking my eyes off of it until I'm done with it. And then we're going to top off the 55 because I did drain that 5-gallon bucket out of it. And that's all I'm going to do. We'll do a real proper water change on that tank in a little while. I can see some like stuff that needs to be vacuumed out of the bottom. The glass really needs to be wiped down. And I can still get in there and pull some more of that moss out. I got a lot of it tonight, though. That was good. That was good thinking of me to actually just stick my hand in there and just try pulling some of it out instead of using that stupid vac that kept clogging up every 6 seconds. The crypt I have are the red ones. Hey, Frank, I think it's the Wendy or Wendetti or whatever it's called. I never know how to pronounce that, but you know which one I'm talking about when I say that, or at least most people do. Oh, look at this. If you were here with me Friday night, you remember I was talking about some little tiny Do you see it? Look how tiny that little fucker is. That little platy. So they're definitely breeding that. I told you I saw some really small platies in this tank. And then when I got the camera, I was never able to really get a good look at any. These are about the normal size. So the one we saw was about a quarter of that size. It was a tiny little thing. So we definitely have platies in there breeding. Oops, sorry, I donked the camera lens or my light into the glass. I don't know if I scared you guys or the fish more. Probably the fish. Microphone's on my neck, not on the camera. But if the microphone was on the camera, it probably would have scared the hell out of you. I'm sure it made a hell of a donk noise on the inside of the tank. All right, let me take another swig of my iced tea. Then we'll do another hit of my gooey goo. I'm starting to not trust my knees. They're starting to feel a little on the mayonnaise-y side. When your knees feel like mayonnaise, you know you're doing something right. Or possibly very wrong. I think in this case, though, we're going to call it right. I don't know. I was expecting a little more to happen once it started rolling on to me. It kind of started rolling on to me and went, all right, that's enough, dude. And so I think we're kind of peaking out on that first batch. Maybe the second batch rolling on to me here soon will do something. Although I got to say the second batch was just one small cookie. The first two I ate were not big, but they were bigger than the third one I ate. So I am pretty high, but it's not like I was expecting it to be. I don't know. I don't think those cookies are all that strong. I think Steve was overreacting. But my God, Steve was so high today. You should have seen him. I felt bad because I kept laughing at him every time I turned and look at him. And just the look on his face, he just looked so stoned. He looked like a cliche. It was a good day to be out in the woods and super duper high, though. Probably the only thing ruining it was my incessant chatter. I think he, like most people, learns to just tune me out and let me go. Like he doesn't, just in one ear and out the other. He ain't really paying attention to anything I'm saying. I'm used to that. It's still, I guess I could probably put the lid on, but you see how close it is to the top? So to really press the lid on, I would have to do it in such a way that the center part of the lid would still squish down onto that. So we're not going to put the lid on aggressively. I've just been setting the lid on top of it like that. We'll continue to do that until it the level has gone down to a more user-friendly state. Oh, hang on a minute. I might be able to tell you what the red pigment is called. Just got an email from somebody. Excuse me. It's carotene, or more correctly, a carotenoid. Oh, I've heard of carotenoids before. I didn't realize that was the red pigment. Interesting. So carotene, not creatine, and not keratin, which is what our fingernails and hooves are made out of, but carotene. Interesting. So I was right. Melanin is the brown pigment because we only have the two. I always thought that sucked that we only got the two. It depends on the mayonnaise, Zini. And since you live where you live, you don't even know what proper mayonnaise is. Oh, don't tell me you eat salad cream, do you? Do you eat salad cream or do you eat actual mayonnaise? I do have more cookies, Bob. I have a whole bunch more cookies, actually. I've got I don't know. I got a lot more. I got probably a dozen more, something like that. I made the rest of my batch into actual cookies, and they're sitting on a tray upstairs. But if I ate it now, even at best, it would be pushing midnight by the time it kicked in. And I really hope to God I'm not still down here doing a live stream at pushing midnight. I love all you guys and everything on all, but I don't feel like being down here all damn night. All right, we're getting super duper close. The salad cream. I've never actually had salad cream. Homemade mayonnaise. That sounds good. No, I'm very particular about the mayonnaise I eat. If you're not from around here or whatever, then you won't matter to you. But I prefer Hellman's is my favorite. That's just the best. And if you can't get Hellman's, there is another brand called Duke's, and Duke's is a very acceptable alternative to Hellman's. But Hellman's is the best. Kraft is probably the most common, but in my opinion, Kraft just doesn't really have much flavor. And then we also have some stuff that, if you're not from around here, it's called Miracle Whip, and that shit is nasty. It's like a mayonnaise alternative. It's like mayonnaise with like extra flavoring or spice or something, and I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's not good. I don't know anybody that likes Miracle Whip. I don't know how it's still a product that gets sold in shelves, but it does. And again, if anybody out there likes Miracle Whip, shout out, let me know. Somebody must like it because it still sits on shelves in the stores. Egg. We looked at, well, hang on a minute. Let me, that other tank is almost done topping off. We got like a half an inch left to go. Oh, dude, I love mayonnaise on my French fries. I eat the shit out of mayonnaise on my French fries. Hellman's is okay. I'm not a huge Hellman's fans, though. If I had my choice between Hellman's and Kraft, I would go with Hellman's, no doubt. All right. Just working my way around. One of the good things about having a pond is that you can dump water in it as you make your way around the room. All right, so you can get good mayonnaise then. That's all right then. Oh, yay. Your mother loves Miracle Whip. That's interesting. Well, I can tell you I have an especial hatred for Miracle Whip that I fully understand is like a personal thing. But even after I became an adult and learned what Miracle Whip actually was, I still just don't like it. I prefer the mayonnaise. So when I was a kid, we used to get this stuff called marshmallow fluff. We put it on our ice cream and stuff. In the summertime, or we'd get snowballs and then we'd put our own marshmallow on it. It's basically like a whipped marshmallow that comes in a container and you can spoon it out. It's like a marshmallow sauce almost, except it's not quite a sauce. Anyway, we used to get this stuff called marshmallow fluff. If you've ever had it, it's fucking delicious. Well, when you're a little kid, you don't necessarily know what you're looking at. And I opened up the refrigerator one day, and there was this jar of this stuff called Miracle Whip. It didn't say a goddamn thing about it being mayonnaise. It just said Miracle Whip. And for whatever reason, in my brain, I thought it was going to be some sort of marshmallow fluff-like treat. I just thought it was going to be sweet. I thought it was going to be creamy and smooth. Maybe sticky or something like that. And so I opened it up and I got a big old spoonful of it and I stuck that in my mouth and it was fucking not sweet and creamy. Well, I guess it was creamy and smooth in its own way, but not in the way I was expecting. And oh my God, I was not expecting that. And so that was not a good experience to have as your first experience with Miracle Whip. So I will say that, I am kind of biased against not really liking the Miracle Whip. But having said that, as an adult, I did, rethink about it and taste it on a sandwich just to see, and I'm not a big fan of it. I think I can say that unbiasedly, even though I'm very biased. All right, we got about that much left to go out of this tank over here, and we'll be done. And then I think we may as well throw the hose in the discus tank. You can see it's not fully topped off, so why not? All right, this is almost done over here. And I never did shut this filter off while we did anything because I only took 5 gallons out of it, so there's no need to turn anything back on. All right, now let's come back over this way again. All right, now when this tank is done filling up, we'll be finished with the working. And I can get on with the sitting and the relaxing. And I swear I should be higher than I am. I don't really feel that much higher than I normally do for this time of night. It's freaking 10 o'clock already. Time hasn't even slowed down yet. It's still cruising right along at friggin' old man speed. Because the older you get, the faster time goes. You've never eaten any type of sauce. No ketchup, just sauce. Marshmallow fluff and plain. That's called a fluffer nutter. I've actually never had one of those, but that sandwich is actually called a fluffer nutter. Didn't even like ketchup on your McDonald's burger? Interesting. Yeah, I was going to say, you need moisture. I would not eat a raw onion. I don't even like cooked onions. I don't mind onion flavor, but you guys know I'm a texture person. Whoa, that was weird. I turned around the wrong way, and I almost lost my balance. I almost went ass over 10 cups into the pond. So that was, thank God I got a lifetime experience doing dumb shit like this. All right, we have just about filled this tank up too. Water temperature affecting plant color. Thank you. That's an interesting question. I can't really see how it would, but I suppose it's possible. Maybe if the plant's temperature has anything to do with like how fast it grows or something, and maybe its growth rate might have something to do with its coloration. So I suppose there could be a correlation in there somehow, but I really don't honestly know. I would think the plant color is going to be more correlated to its diet, what nutrients it gets. For example, the obvious one is a red plant needs plenty of iron. If it doesn't get enough, it won't be really deep red. Potassium can affect the color of a plant. Not enough nitrogen can decide whether it's going to be nice, deep, dark green or a pale yellowy green. So I would think its food source would probably be the most likely cause of color change, or what would directly affect the color the most. And then secondly, I would say the amount of light it gets would be very determinative of how much coloration you get. For example, in terrestrial plants, if you've got plant, it's called creeping Jenny and golden Jenny, and there's a few variations of it that are all basically the same. And that plant is very much light sensitive. If you put it in a shadier area that doesn't get a lot of direct sunlight, it'll be a much more green color. And if you put it out where it gets a lot of sunlight, very full sunlight, it will get very golden yellowy color. Soil pH can affect the color, so possibly the pH in your tank can affect it. I don't see how temperature would do it, though. But it's possible. I'm not saying it doesn't. I just don't know how. But that's a very interesting question. I know with weed, like the overnight temperature versus the daytime temperature will determine how much like purple you get in the leaves when it starts to flower and stuff like that. So again, I'm not ruling it out. Temperature could have something to do with it. I just don't know what it is. Halibut. San Martinez, hello. I use the same tube for draining the tank as I do for adding it. Yeah, exactly, Ish. That's what I was saying at the end there. The weed does change color differently depending on how you do it at night and all that kind of stuff. Hey, OG Fish Keeping, how are you doing this evening? Eugene, hello. I'm doing all right. In fact, I'm really high. I'm going to need to sit down here in a minute. My legs keep doing weird shit on me. I'm beginning to not trust them. Beginning to suspect they might be planning something on me here. So San Martinez, if you look up a Python water changer, that's one brand name. I think the one I use is by Vivor. There's Aquion makes one, but it's a standard water change hose. I've got the 50-foot length, but you can buy a 25-foot length. It's got a kit that you can hook up to your sink where you can turn the water on and flip a valve one way or the other. I disconnect mine. I don't flip the valve. I just take it off and I put it in the drain to drain it. And then when I'm ready to fill it back up, I fill it back up. I connect it back to the sink and refill it. All right. Someone asked me to see the eggs of the discus. So you see that discus in front of the damn heater. Well, if you look just past that discus, you can kind of not see it at all. God damn fish. Let's try going this way. Nope. Let's try going this way again. Nope. You see the white line on the wire? That's not what you're looking at. That white line is nearite snail eggs. Pay no attention to that white line. Right next to that white line, you'll see that tan smudge on the heater itself, not the wire. But if you see that little tan smudge, that's a big pile of discus eggs. I don't know why I'm pointing it at the wrong tank here. Get on over here. I'm trying to look at the monitor, not where I'm pointing the camera. And so as long as I can see it on the monitor, I guess you guys can see it too. You see it now? There you go. You can kind of see them now. So that is a big old pile of discus eggs that discus is very studiously protecting. This is my poor little weakling. Look how dark color he is. I think that's Dad. I'm pretty sure that's Mom back there with the eggs, but I'm pretty sure this one's Dad right here. See, he keeps beating up on this little one down here, and this little one doesn't know where to go. See how bad he looks? He almost looks like I need to get him out of the tank. See, he's got his fins all folded down. He's trying to look unassuming. I think if he goes down this end of the tank, the ones down here pick on him and beat up on him. So I think we need to maybe move him out of the tank too. I don't know if these two have paired off or not. Sure looks like it though, doesn't it? Whoa, whoa. Yeah, but this guy is real tiny. He's all by himself. He's just hanging out down there. I think I might try to pull him out of the tank. Not now, but at some point, I think I might get in there and try to pull him out of the tank. All right, let me walk around the room and double check everything so I can reassure myself that nothing's left running or dripping or draining or filling or flowing or whatever. And once I'm reassured of that, I can chillax and let those cookies wash over me. Although I'm really thinking those cookies aren't strong enough. I don't know how much fucking weed I have to put in a batch of goddamn cookies to make them strong enough to be powerful to me. Other people eat them and say, holy Jesus, what are you trying to do to me, man? And then I eat them. I'm like, are you kidding me? Again, I'm not saying I'm not high. I'm just saying I'm not as high as you'd think I would be after eating 3 of those cookies. All right. Am I getting all these messages or not? Are you calling me Dad, Zini? You're my number 2 son. Maybe when you use it a lot, it loses its effect. When I use what a lot? Oh, when I eat a lot of cookies? I don't know. I don't eat that many cookies. Right, I'm number 2 dad, and you're number 2 son, because Shamu's number 1 son. Although I gotta say, Shamu has been ghosting me here lately. When's the last time somebody saw Shamu in one of these chats? You're probably gonna say like last Friday, probably. Last fucking time we were doing this. Oh, I didn't do that to those unsuspecting employees there, Zini. That was somebody else doing that with my cookies. All right, let me see. What did we do tonight? We worked on the 55. That is running. Everything's fine. It's just got a bucket of water sitting in front of it. 50, the 125, the filter is back on. The power head is on. No hoses are in it. Everything's running. I'm going to call that one done and done. That one's doing whatever it's doing. It's just rolling. That don't have a filter, so we don't have to worry about that. I do want to add another squirt of the green juice for my poor goldfishes. And the hose is in the other room. I think we're good to go. We can probably sit down and chillax for a little while. All right. Here, let me take this lid off. So this is the IC X. This is a combination of malachite green and formalin. I think it's really good stuff, and it's not really super hyper, specific on how you dose it. So if you'll notice, I just kind of poke the hole in there, and when I dose it, I just give a good squirt in the tank, and that should be plenty. It mixes around really quickly. Doesn't look as blue when you look down through it, and it's not as deep when you look through it this way. It's like, oh wow, where'd all that blue come from? A lot of the blueness that you see is because the glass has a slightly blue tint to it as well. When you actually look down into the tank, it doesn't look like I put nearly as much in there, does it? So if I thought I was putting these fish in any kind of danger, I would certainly not have done a squirt like that. So that's I did that on camera once again, just to demonstrate to you that not only is this really good stuff, it's really safe stuff. You don't have to worry about being hyper specific. It calls for 5 milligrams per 8 gallons. And so you got to get your little measuring, just get it close. You're fine. So hopefully that'll be the last time we need to squirt for that. I'll put that lid on once I sit down. Let me get myself situated here. Oh, this is going to feel good sitting down. Me and Steve walked I don't know how long that walk was today. I'll have to figure it out. I'll bet it was, I don't know. It probably wasn't that far. Maybe 4 miles total, and walk maybe 2 miles in and 2 miles back. I got some on my hand. I'm blue now. Can audition for the Blue Man group. Throw myself off a fucking cliff before I did that. All right. Feels good. Oh, sweet bloody hell, that feels good. We did a lot of walking up and down on hills. I could feel my legs are burning now and again. So it was definitely a good walk. It was super windy. Steve tried going out on the kayak. I was going to go out and meet him, and he called me up. He's like, "Ah, never mind." He said, "I just got here. This is nuts. Forget it. We'll go for a hike in the woods instead." So he loaded the kayak back up, and I met him out, where we went, and then we went hiking for a couple of miles. It was a good day out in the woods. Like I said, I had a good time, and I got a lot of exercise. I got a yawn now. I told you, sitting down feels good. I feel like a whole day just washed away from me. All right, where the hell am I? I didn't even shave tonight. Look how friggin' shaggy I am. It's like a bush growing an afro. Ah, there's no such thing as too much tolerance. Oh, I got a third son now? Good grief. You ran into him behind Walmart? Nice. That's right. Yeah. That's right, Zini. Go to yawn again. See, this is why I don't like cookies. I know what fin means. They used to put that at the end of Pink Panther when I was a kid, and that's when I learned that. I hear from him from time to time from text. He just hasn't been on a live stream in a while. Holy crap, I'm going to yawn again. This is what happens when I eat the cookies. I definitely get high, or I do any kind of edibles as far as I can tell, but especially when I make my cookies, because I do make them pretty damn strong. I just get drowsy. I feel pretty sharp tonight. I don't feel like I'm too dull. A lot of times I just feel kind of like duh. I get a real heavy body buzz, and I just kind of zone out, and I just want to sleep. It's great for when my back's bothering me, which is why I'm eating them tonight. Honestly, I still haven't got my medication, and so I'm self-medicating by eating these cookies because they really do give me a good body buzz, and they help take that spasms out of my back. So I once went on a rant about how I didn't really see a whole lot of medical use out of marijuana other than, blah, blah, whatever. But I'm now eating cookies because they actually really do take some of the pain out of my back, and they they stop those spasms from happening. So that's the main reason I've been eating the cookies. But I get a good night's sleep, and that's about it. Again, it's not like it's party time. I ate some cookies, and now we're gonna, I'm gonna be telling wild stories or having crazy, doing impersonations or something. I don't know what you might expect from somebody getting really all hyped up from eating a bunch of cookies, but they just generally tend to make me drowsy and give me like a really heavy body buzz, and I just get kind of zoned out. Although again, tonight I am feeling pretty all right in the head. But my body definitely wants to take a nap after walking through the woods and whatnot today. I'm sorry, Ish. No, they don't have ick, but the fanciest of fancy goldfish, the big black one that's in there, she has had some sort of white growth near her tail that was there for a few days. It didn't clear up. I gave her a treatment. It went away. I thought that was enough, and after about a week or so, it started coming back. So I've done a few more treatments. Earlier this evening, I did a water change, and now that I've done a water change, I want to do one final treatment just in case there's any, just because I can't see it anymore doesn't mean there's not still a tiny little bit of fungus or whatever it was that was growing there seemed problematic. And so we're going to do one more treatment And hopefully after this, we just won't see it come back anymore. All right, where was I now? Let me get caught up. Oop, holding you guys upside down. No wonder that didn't feel right. Oh, I'm going to yawn again. Good grief. Ugh. Hopefully that one did it, but I don't think it did. I'm going to go get some sleep tonight. Good grief. It's only 10:15. It feels like 4:30 in the fucking morning. God damn, I feel tired all of a sudden. Have I ever noticed better growth near an airstone? Not that I can think of. And I'm trying to think of why it might, kind of like the heat and the color. I don't know why it might. Maybe if there's some plants that like more current, they might tend to grow near there because of the water movement and whatnot. But I don't suspect the extra oxygen would make the plants grow better right there. Again, don't know that, but I don't really think that would be the case. And I've certainly never noticed it, which was your question. All right. Turning your good morning into good meningitis. I hope I don't get meningitis. I don't have any amigos in my tank either, and I hope I don't have any meningitises. Meningitises are the fucking worst. All right, my thing has said 13 people all night. I don't know why it doesn't keep an accurate update. Let me switch. I got to go from all messages to top messages and then flip it back to all messages. And now it says 27 people, which lines up with what that says. Well, plants do use oxygen to a small degree, but that is only at night when they are not photosynthesizing. What plants really crave is carbon dioxide. We all know, of course, that plants crave electrolytes, but aside from electrolytes, we don't pump electrolytes through our air stones. We do pump oxygen and we do pump carbon dioxide through there. And so that would be what the plants would be probably more apt to grow from, would be the carbon dioxide. But it's not like the plants are grabbing the bubbles or somehow extracting the carbon dioxide out of the bubbles. There's probably going to be a slightly higher amount in the immediate vicinity in the water, but if you've got reasonable circulation, which if you've got an airstone, you're going to have water circulation along with it. I just can't imagine there being a localized area of excessive carbon dioxide that's going to make the plants grow any better around the column of bubbles or whatever. Again, it may. I don't know. There's a lot of shit I don't understand about most things, honestly. But there's nothing I know of that would make it do that. I can't think of how that would actually work. And again, in my experience, again, the question was, have I ever noticed that? And I have not. And I'm looking around. I'm even thinking about it as I look around. I do notice that my power heads will generally get the here. Come walk with me. This power head. Look how much, and I got in there recently and pulled that off of there. But look how much Java moss I've got growing all over that power head. How much do you see growing on the airstone? Or the hose for the airstone that's right in its own column of air. I see plenty growing on the cable that's next to the column of air, but I don't see any that's growing in the column of air. And I don't see an excessive amount, compared to over here where it really grows thick. So if we look in this tank, likewise, the airstone's not nearly as vigorous, but it's the same scenario. We've got moss, and Java moss is a vigorous grower, so it's a good example. We've got moss growing on the power head, so there's water flow and circulation. But if you look above it where the air stone is, there's no moss growing on or around the air stone or on the hose above it where the water flow is moving and the air is, in the water column. But on the spray bar, we took a shit ton of moss off of the spray bar itself tonight. So it clearly grows where there's plenty of water flow, but doesn't grow where there's an air stone in this tank. You see all the bubbles coming up back there behind where the water flow is, right up against the glass. All those bubbles, that's an air stone hanging in the back. And we don't have any plants growing on or around that or anything. So I don't think that there would be anything in particular. This Java Anubias is looking so good. Look at that. How many people have an Anubias? I need to trim these dead leaves out of here. But how many people have an Anubias growing out of their aquarium that has leaves that look that beautiful, or even ones underwater that look that beautiful? This one here is just gorgeous. But this one is the most. That is beautiful. Hang on, let's see from backlit from behind. Look at that. Oh man, that is a pretty leaf, isn't it? Oh, we could do shadow puppets behind the leaf. So here's one that's a little richer and darker green. We'll look at that one backlit. Look at the fucking veins in this one. How's that for an awesome looking Anubias? This is the back side of it. If we look from the front, isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. Well, I do have bubbles that rise up out of the gravel down here. You'll see them every now and again, and they do go right up into this big pile of roots right there. Did you see them? But I don't think those roots are growing there because of that pile of or those bubbles that come up out of there from time to time. All right, we got my dragon tongue over here, still doing really well. That looks amazing. That is looking awesome. This is all new growth coming on the end. This thing's just a beast. That's more of that same stuff. It's just getting crazy. You can see all these tips have turned the other way. I rotated it, and all the tops of it are just starting to turn inwards. They're making their way up towards the sun right there. But you can see all the tops have started to twist and turn, and you can see the purple undersides of the leaves on this one again. And here's more of it. This stuff just grows like a fucking beast. So I need to get in here and do some stuff with this. I haven't yet, but we're going to at some point. There's more of that stuff. If you can see this piece of pothos down there, you see how chewed up and munched up those leaves are? That's the goldfish that do that. Look how chewed up all these leaves are. Look at that one. Looks like a fucking caterpillar's been eating it. That's goldfish do that. So that piece of pothos is a big old, there's a couple of branches down there. You can see them underwater. They go all the way down here, and it's all part of this pothos down here. You can see another big long branch goes around there and goes down into the water. I think I cut it off down here somewhere. I think the end is here somewhere. Is that this end? No, that's a different end. I don't know where that end goes. No, here it is right here. Oh, no, that is this end. It rooted or something. Is that the same end? Where the hell does this go? Oh, Jesus, there it is. It goes way under there. And it branches. Good Lord. All right, so we got more pothos than I realized in there. God damn. I do know how to grow plants, don't I? I do this shit by accident. They just happen. Tell me how much that doesn't look like those damn Anubias leaves we were just looking at. But this is a peace lily. Those are nice, fresh, brand new leaf right there. That's a fairly new one. All right. We've made our way all the way back to home base. Let me sit down again. All right. That was a nice little tour. I can tell you how high I am. Where was I? There it was. That's awkward, Mike. Aquaponics will use air stones for the roots, but not necessarily in the roots. No, I don't use any CO2. I don't use any plant food or anything like that. No foods, ferts, tabs. Oh, let me see. Is there anything else, Dave, that could be attributing to the Anubias doing better on one side than the other? Are you getting more light on one side than the other, perhaps, or something like that? No, Ish, moss does not have roots. No moss that I know of has roots. All right, let me see where I am. Excuse me. Oh, you got your first leaf coming up out of the Anubias? Nice. Just leave it alone. Be patient. Well, the problem with trying those kinds of experiments, and if you could stop signing me, I would appreciate it. The problem with trying those kinds of experiments is you have to do a lot of them to really get an accurate idea, because even two cuttings, and believe me, I have a lot of experience in making cuttings from plants, but even two cuttings, two clones from the same mother plant, side by side underneath the same grow light, will not necessarily always grow at the same rate. Some will grow much more vigorously than others, and I just don't know why. Sometimes I'm feeding them and doing everything more or less the same. Sometimes they just don't grow at the same rate. And so if I just did it once and I got one plant, let's say the plant that was on the far side away from the air stone was the one that was growing more vigorously, I wouldn't feel justified in saying, see, look how much, I would say, okay, well, that's what's going on with these two. Let's try it again and see what happens in the next case. And if you do that 15 times and, 11 of them, it's the one, on the far end of the tank. Well, now maybe you can kind of start drawing some conclusions, but just doing that to see what happens, I really wouldn't feel like that told us a whole lot, honestly. It would be interesting, but I don't think it would tell us a whole lot at the end of the day. We'd probably have to do that multiple times, or set up multiple different scenarios and some kind of control to get some kind of idea of what was happening, and that's too much science for me. I don't know. Somebody else wants to, I'd be interested in it. Now, what I will do, because I do like reading and I do like thinking about stuff, and this is an interesting topic, at some point tonight, I'm sure I'll be bored upstairs and I will start reading and doing a little bit of does oxygen, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Because I can speak once I wet my whistle here. I can speak about oxygen and roots and terrestrial plants. Whether that correlates or not, I don't know, but hang on. The way most people kill their houseplants, as we all know, is by overwatering them. The reason they kill them by overwatering them is because plant roots need oxygen. And when you put too much water, the soil gets saturated. It pushes all of the air out of the gaps between the soil and everything. And eventually there's just no more air in there. And once the plant roots have used up all the oxygen out of the water, it becomes CO2 rich, which means it's acidic. And now your plants are in oxygen poor water that has become acidic, and your roots will start to rot on the plant, and it will prevent it from taking up nutrients and so on and so forth. So when you pull that plant out that's got the soggy roots and it's got that boggy stink to it, that's the roots rotting from the acid. That's where that smell comes from. So ideally, roots need oxygen. Now, you can do it in a typical house plant by allowing the soil or the potting mix or whatever to dry out a little bit between waterings, and then it'll sort of separate and open up, and air will fill in those gaps, and the roots will get some oxygen and all that. And then you gently water it again and put some moisture back in. You don't flood it and saturate it, but you put some moisture back in the soil, and the roots are able to get some more moisture. When you're doing the aeroponic, where the roots just hang and they spray the water on it, it's also getting oxygen from the air. So the plants really do need oxygen. But having said that, if you've got an air stone and you've got the waters rising up and swirling around, one of the points of putting an air stone in our tanks is to create water movement and water circulation. And so if you've got that water circulation and movement and everything, remember, the most gas exchange happens. I'm not saying none happens between the interaction between the bubble itself and the water column, but where the real magic happens is when the bubble's popping at the surface. That's where the excessive oxygen or CO2 or whatever. Again, remember, you're not putting anything in the water with an air stone necessarily. You are simply facilitating gas exchange. So if there's excessive amounts of CO2 that need to off gas and the water was kind of calm and still the CO2 might build up, an air stone would prevent that from happening. It would allow that CO2 to off gas very easily. If the oxygen levels in the tank were low and you weren't getting enough oxygen in the water because the air movement was, the water current was really slow, an air stone would facilitate oxygen getting into the water. So if it needs oxygen, it can get it. Or if it's got excessive CO2, it can get rid of it. But the air stone's not putting it in there in the same way that, like, running a CO2 tank is putting CO2 into the water. You're adding CO2 to the water with a CO2 tank. A standard air stone that's just pumping air is simply facilitating gas exchange, and it just allows the tank to breathe properly. If it needs to get excess stuff off, it can. If it needs to add extra stuff, it can do that nice and easily. So it's just allowing that to happen. And that most of that gas exchange is happening at the surface. And again, if that's the case, it's hitting the surface, it's spreading out, it's going around, it's flowing around the tank. The roots of your plants that need oxygen don't need oxygen like a tank and the tubes in the nose, and they don't need that much oxygen. As long as you got an air stone facilitating the gas exchange, there's plenty of oxygen in all of the water in the tank that the roots can thrive anywhere. I just really, again, don't really see how being near the air stone itself would cause any excessive growth or whatever, but I will look into it. It is an interesting idea. But I will look into that. Australian, hello. Amateur hour. Right. All right, let me find my last stop sign. There it is. All right, getting more killifish. I did see that, Shirley. I think I commented on that. I do definitely feel very high. As I'm talking, I'm having like weird ringing noises in my ears on both sides. All right, let's see. All right, Ish, you are quite welcome. And all right, somebody can stop sign me again. Wow, it's almost 11 o'clock already. The time is going by fast tonight. All right, let's do another dab. We are still working on trying to get this down to a low enough level that I can, and this is what it actually looks like in a more moderate amount, so you can actually see how pretty that looks. You should be able to almost see through it if I can line it up properly. Now, maybe not. Anyway, it's a really good stuff. This is that Poochie Love. I really like this Poochie Love, and it was a free seed, so I got lucky on that one. All right, everybody. I guess we'll start winding it down. We'll cut it off at 11-ish tonight. It is a Sunday night. My head is ringing. It's weird. I guess around now that third cookie's kicking in. Maybe that's why my head's starting to do weird shit. It's that third cookie working on me. It's almost like a tinnitus ringing, but it's not quite like that kind of ringing that you get from tinnitus or tinnitus, as some people call it. I do believe either way you want to pronounce that is fine. Excuse me. Sometimes, oops, I just kicked you guys. Sometimes time flies when you're high. Other times it goes slow as shit. All right, Shirley, I'm going to be walking myself out of here soon. So we got about 20 minutes left. If anybody has any last thoughts or questions, comments, etc. Kick you again, Bob? When did I kick you the first time? Tinnitus can be a symptom of hearing loss. This tinnitus is a symptom of eating too many marijuana cookies. This is not tinnitus. This is like my head is going and like vibrating like it's a hi-hat cymbal that somebody crashed really hard. More like that. And it's hard to concentrate. I can't believe I got through that whole thing about the gas exchange and the water flow and all that. I stayed on target. I stayed focused. I brought it back to what I was talking about originally. I was very proud of myself from that. I have a hard time doing that when I'm not high as shit. Doing it when I'm high as shit is a altogether different thing. So, yay. Do I vacuum after extraction? Like do a vacuum purge? Yeah, I do. definitely have to do a vacuum purge. Oh, and for those of you that were here Friday night and I was complaining about the batch of weed or the batch of goo that I had made, and I said, oh, damn it, did I not bring it down here? I don't think I brought it downstairs with me. Oh, well, it's not that important. I made a batch of this very stuff, the same weed and everything, the other day, and I overheated it, and I was complaining about it. And I said, if I just gave this to somebody and I didn't tell them I overheated it or whatever, and I just said here, they would take it and they'd say, wow. They'd only say that because they don't know what it could have been if I didn't overheat it. And so I proved that today because when I met up with Steve today, I gave him the stuff that I had overheated, and he was like, "Oh wow, man!" He's like, "That is so good." I was like, "You think that's good?" I said, "But I said that's my overheated stuff. That's not that." And he's like, "I don't know what you that." He said, "That's pretty damn good, dude." I said, "I know it is. It is pretty good." I said, "Here, taste this," and then I gave him some of this. And he was like, "Oh, holy shit!" Like, "God damn, dude, you weren't fucking kidding." Like, I see what you're saying now. I get it. Nothing wrong with the overheated stuff. That's fine. But compared to when it turns out right and I don't overheat it, it comes out looking like that. It's completely different. The flavor's there. It's all flowery and light. And, it's just yummy. So let's do a hit of it. Actually, we're going to do a hit once again out of this one because it's like completely overflowing. And I'm trying to just sort of work the volume down so that I can actually get that lid closed. You see all the little, it looks like teeth marks. That's from me taking my tube and tapping at it and making all those little notches in it. So that's how much I remove from it every time I do some hits. And slowly we'll work our way through that. Not tonight, obviously. I'll still be hitting on this next Friday, probably. It'll take me a while to go through all this. I don't even know how much I got. Let me go weigh this real quick. I'll tell you what's in this alone. I don't know what's in this plus the other one. Plus, I've already smoked a fair whack of it at this point. Let's see. That was the wrong button to push. That's the correct button to push. The one that says on off. All right, let's see. That is 12.1. This is going to break my brain. So 5 grams, 4.9 right here, plus, I'm sure there's at least a solid 1/10 of a gram in that other container. Plus, I've already smoked a couple of bowls where I've smeared this in it and dripped some of it in there. So I probably got about 5.5 grams total out of that batch I made. But that's 4.9 right there. Not too shabby. So let's do a hit. I never did get around to doing that. Excuse me. Still can't put the lid on it proper. That's going to take a while. That'll be like what? What's tonight? Sunday. That'll be Tuesday before I can do that. Have I ever kissed a fish? Not to my knowledge. All right, let me see where I was. I was back here somewhere. Hey, Billy, how are you this evening? I have kept pea puffers, and I have not personally had a lot of experience, good experience with them. Maybe 9 months is the longest I've ever been able to keep them alive. I've tried them 4 or 5 times maybe. I tried 2. I tried 1 singularly. I tried a group of 5 one time. I tried, the heavily planted tank, lots of stuff breaking up lines of sight so they wouldn't fight with each other. And I don't know if it's my water. I just don't know what it was. I was never really successful at keeping them. They're cool little fish, though. I really do like them. Any kind of puffer has a lot of personality. They're neat little fish. Good grief. With the Eheim tube on the nail. Oh, are you talking about that little piece? That actually is, it's not what you're thinking, but it's pretty close. From the Home Depot, they sell, they have rolls of vinyl tubing. And it wasn't the one we used to do the water change tonight. That's a nice thin one, so it's flexible and easy to work with. But I used to use one that was much heavier and not as easy to work with. You can see how thick that tubing is. But it's just the right size for I don't know if that's warm enough for me to touch. This is what you get. You can buy these by themselves. That is a nectar collector. I just call it my straw. And it's a titanium alloy. So $8 to $10 for one. You can pay maybe $12 and get a 2-pack of them. Sometimes you will get them. They'll come with a little silicone handle as part of the whole, you pay $10 and you get the whole kit, and it comes with a handle and a cap and all that bullshit. I, however, do not like hitting on whether it's an electronic device or it's one of these or even like a bong. That's like if back in the day, like you'd smoke out of a ceramic bong or something, and you just couldn't see what was happening with the smoke inside the bong. I don't like a silicone tube that you just can't see how thick and dense the white smoke coming through is. So that, even though it's got a little bit of a curve to it, it's a little bit of an oddball, I can actually see what's going on when I do my dab. I can see how thick and dense the smoke is. I can tell when I'm hitting it. It just makes it a lot easier. And so that's my pretty much go-to smoking device, a piece of vinyl tubing jammed on the end of a little $6 or $8 piece of metal, and it works like a champ. I get crushing size hits out of it. Let me see if I've got one of these in the other room. You've probably seen these. I'm sure I've got one sitting around here somewhere. I got so much shit lying everywhere. Well, goddamn it, how come you can never find any stupid thing when you want to find a stupid thing? Probably because I never use those stupid things, and that's why I don't have them sitting around. I will show you a couple of these, though, since I'm looking at them. I can't find what I'm looking for, but you'll see these. All right, god damn it. I don't know where they went. I have this one. And this one used to have, which end it was in? It was in this end. It had one of these metal nectar collectors, whatever you want to call these metal tubes. It had one of them in here, but instead of being the 14 millimeter, it was a little tiny 10 millimeter. So it had a little tiny hole in it, and it was a little tiny piece of metal. And so you'd get it really nice and hot. And as soon as you would start to do the dab, it would cool down immediately and your hit was over. And so it kind of sucked. But the way this is designed, you see it's got the diffuser in there. You can actually fill this with water, and it holds water pretty well. You pop that off, you put your water in there, and as long as you don't do anything too radical with it, it'll hold water without spilling, and you can do your little dabs with it. But like I said, it came with a shitty, stupid little end on it that made it impossible to work with, and it feels like you're holding a gigantic thing with that stupid little end on it. This one, however, is a little classier. It's all glass, and it is basically the same thing, except being glass, you can't just jam this in there. You got to put one of your little lab equipment clips on there, and then that holds the thing in. And then, like I say, you fill it up to about there with water. You can see it's filthy inside, but it's got a diffuser in there. You put about that much water in it. And if you turn it upside down, you see how the inside glass, it comes up to a point. As long as the water's not above that point, as long as the water's only about that deep, it'll stay in there. And you can turn it, this way and that way. And maybe a drip or two will come out the end if you shake it or something. But for the most part, this actually just holds water. And then you can do you can do your dabs through water. So kind of neat. But for whatever reason, I never really use these. I always just stick with a piece of vinyl tubing jammed on the end of one of these. It's simple. It's easy. So maybe one day we'll clean it out, and we'll fill this one up with water, and I'll show you guys how my little water dabber works. But not tonight. I've even got a special little place for this to hang on the wall over here. All right. Let's keep on standing since we're winding down to the last few minutes. And we'll get you moved over here. I already got the light turned on, so we can leave that on. All right. Got a Roku stinger pen. Nice. I've got a bunch of little electronic devices. The one I use most is my Luca Seahorse. But I have a little dipper that's not too bad. And then I've got a couple others that are generic that I don't even know what they're called. I will show you one that I do like. I use this one a lot too, although it's a different style electronic device. And I was going to say, God damn it, I know it's over here somewhere. This is my Yokan Cubex. And it's got the coil on the inside. You take the cap off, and it's got the quartz coils and stuff in the bottom. And so you can put a globbing on in there. But this doesn't have the regular like quartz coils. This has like a tray in the bottom that it holds a lot. You can just get, I don't know, you can't just smoke on it all day long. But some of the other electronic devices where you could put the hash oil in there and take it with you, I'd get 3 or 4 good hits, and then it was kind of done, and you had to go through. It was a pain in the ass. Like if I was out on my kayak, having to reload it or whatever while I'm out on the water. So ultimately, I would generally not take those with me. This one really does hold quite a lot. I load this up, and I can take it with me for the afternoon. And it's not the only thing I use. I will still smoke a bowl or take, maybe a torch with me or whatever. But it's convenient. I can whip it out real quick and just have a few puffs on it. And, so I do like this a lot as far as the electronic devices go. But it always comes down to, this is my go-to, just a hot piece of metal with a hole in the end and hitting on my hash oil. All right, everybody, any last thoughts? It looks like everybody dried up and went away. Coming down the last couple of minutes here. All right, we're going to call that the last hit of the night. If I don't see any comments when I get back in, we're going to call it the end of the shoe. The really big shoe. You're still thinking about that high goldfish? I don't think that goldfish got all that high, Bob. All right, everybody. We're gonna call that the end of the show tonight. So thanks for watching. I hope you all had a good time. And remember the spiel. I think most of you, everybody here, is already either a member or already knows the deal. If you want to hang out on Wednesday night on the members only live stream, I may or may not still have cookies by Wednesday night. I think I probably will still have cookies by Wednesday night because I don't eat that many. And I got a whole big fucking tray full of them upstairs. I got to put them in a bag before I go to bed tonight. So we'll see what happens Wednesday. Again, I'm not a big fan of eating cookies during the live stream, but whatever. Bob said he wanted to see me all high as fuck nuts again. Although I do have to say, I did not get as high as I did the other night. The night that I ate those cookies that didn't turn out right and they were all big and flat and mushy, and I ate 3 of them spaced out, that night was ridiculous. That was just stupid high. Tonight's not quite that bad, but I am pretty ripped. So we'll see how that all works out. We'll talk about that Wednesday, Art. All right, everybody. I will see you either Wednesday or next Friday. And Zany, next time I get out, I do have something I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about deja vu. So hopefully I'll be shooting you a video soon, my number 2 son. So look forward to that. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time I see you. Thanks for watching. And good night.